Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Warner. I'm the founder of Mixergy, where I interview entrepreneurs about how they built their businesses. And I was at an event recently called, such a weird name that for a long time I resisted going to the event, but it's called Baby Bathwater. And the thing that I discovered about Baby Bathwater is there are all these incredible entrepreneurs who are doing things that most people don't realize are big business, well organized, and they're doing well. And what they do is they all get together, kind of hang out, not to listen to a bunch of presentations, though they are presentations and talks, but to just kind of hang out, ski together, talk. And I love the people who are over there, but I didn't want to be the person who's walking around going, I should interview you. Do you want to be interviewed on Mixergy? So I reached out to the founders of Baby Bathwater, and I said, can you help me interview some of these people? And I know some of them don't want to be known, but the ones that will be willing to do an interview, so I'm not a bit of a pushy interviewer, can you help me meet them? And they did, and they said the first person you got to get to know is this guy, David Sinek. And he runs Paleo Hacks. And I looked him up, and I said, he's not the founder, though. You know, we're a founder-based site. And I said, hang on a second. Look him up. Listen to the story. And I go, wait a minute, we have to have him on the site. Because, number one, Paleo Hacks is doing really well. And number two, the way that he ended up controlling the company, I think is really interesting. He's someone who did a little bit of work for the site and then said, I want to buy it. And we've done interviews with entrepreneurs, of course, in the past. We've done interviews with intrapreneurs, which is basically people who run companies within bigger companies. But this idea of taking over a business and becoming almost like an entrepreneur in the way you reinvent it, I think is really interesting. And frankly, the whole Paleo Hacks business model, I think, is one we all need to look at. All right. So, boy, I get fast talking New Yorker style sometimes. Do you notice that, David?
I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Connecticut, so I'll be right there with you in rapid fire speech patterns for sure.
Good. I'm so glad that my parents are patient and accepting of me, because this is the way I talk to them too. And then I end the call with this old line from a talk show host, Bob Grant, where he used to say to his callers, get off my phone. So I always end the call with my parents by saying, get off my phone. And they're okay with that too.
Yeah, that sounds accurate for the Northeast for sure.
Yeah. New Yorkers, man. All right. That David is David Sinek. He is the guy behind Paleo Hacks, the world's largest online paleo community. We're going to find out how he makes money with the paleo community, how he took it over, what he's doing with it different from the founder, and there's so much more. This whole interview is sponsored by two great companies. The first will host your website right. It's called HostGator, and I got to tell you guys about this How to Sleep with Your Wife dude that I met at the conference and how that fits in with HostGator. You know who I'm talking about?
It sounds vaguely familiar. I'm happy to learn more.
He was like my lodge mate at this place. And then the second sponsor will help you hire your next great developer. It's called TopTal. David, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. A little nervous, as previously discussed.
Yeah, you told me you had a little anxiety about what? What is the anxiety about being here?
I'm taking you guys seriously. You're the real deal. People will actually watch this. I've made the mistake, and you'll find this if you Google my name, which I would encourage everybody here not to do, of me coming on interviews. This was before I ever had a girlfriend to explain to me about, presenting yourself. But there's an interview of me where I'm like literally in my pajamas with my like hair all messed up, which is probably the case now. Possible to work with, but I'm not doing that anymore. I have recently made a stronger attempt to kind of come out from behind the scenes, because that's what I am classically. I'm very much a behind the scenes guy. So hopefully that doesn't come out.
What do you think it is about you that keeps you behind the scenes? Why aren't you the guy, the face?
Man, I mean, we could go back to like the way I was raised or middle school or something like that. But I think it's just like I'm a big time introvert, and I think a lot of that stems from there's all sorts. I mean, it gets to crazy psychological stuff, but I think it's just like I have a little bit of fear of bringing myself out into the public, and this idea of me being a public figure and other people being able to draw conclusions about me as a person based on this tiny, tiny sample size. And that freaks me out. At the same time, I'm also a guy who like tries not to care as much as possible. And I have this like weird conflicting cognitive dissonance dichotomy in my life where I'm a human. So I do crave attention. I'm thrilled to be on this. Any reply I get from anybody on this, that sees this and says like, oh, I saw you in Mixergy, I'm gonna be stoked about. At the same time, it's very uncomfortable for me to put myself out there. I think, probably has to do with being rejected by girls in high school.
Is that true?
Being rejected by girls in high school?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you also feel like, that's a scarring situation that also is a very big motivator, right? Like, I'm going to show the world. Do you feel that? I remember saying, I'm never going to be able to talk to these girls, but if I make enough money, they're going to want to come to my house to party, and then I'll get to know them, or someone will do something somehow.
With girls, that wasn't the case. With girls, I always felt like money was going to be a dangerous game to play for attracting women. It was more like I was bullied in middle school, and I was the guy who, to make me feel better, it was like, oh, those are the guys who are going to be your gardeners when you grow up and you're rich and famous and whatever. And I will tell you that there is a permanent, as much as I would like to, or have tried to get rid of it, chip on my shoulder from that experience. It's probably not very healthy. It's probably something that I should go to therapy about. But I have a built-in, I've talked to a few people about this, like a built-in kind of internal, I wouldn't call it anger, like where it's like toxic anger and like, harming you or something. It's more like I'm like pissed off for success sort of deal. And I'm also
still,
like,
to this day, when you're working late, when you're coming up with a new piece of copy, when you're doing something that most people would just say, I already did it, I don't want to have any more. When you push yourself that extra step, it's because of that. You still remember it?
It's not like I'm like overtly thinking about it, like, oh, damn you, Steve, from middle school. It's just there's something there that's built in. I think there's stuff that's been built in on top of that, which is that like my identity, I'm very robotic about it, but my identity is I have decided that I am not someone who does incomplete projects or doesn't finish something or doesn't actually be the person who he wants to be. So on those nights, they're part of the fuel of getting to that point in the first place was that like, those, jerks in middle school or whatever. And then the other part of it is just like, I'm not going to mess this up. I'm going to do this thing, and that's how it's going to be. That's all I can, that's all I've got, really.
One other bit of psychology before we get into your business and how you're doing.
Doing this.
There was a guy at the conference, Jesse Elder. I never met him in person before. You know Jesse, right?
I love Jesse. He's great.
Everybody loves Jesse. I don't know what it is about him, but everyone loves him. But here's the thing, though, that I did notice that I can put my finger on. He dresses really cool. He's got a shaved head, a beard that is immaculate, but a kind of casual, like he's going to see through the world, and he's ready to go like he did in the snow and do a video of himself to post somewhere.
Yes.
You don't feel worthy of that, I get the sense. Like, you feel like, I'm still the middle school guy. I'm not Jesse Elder. I'm not the guy to be on camera. Nobody, right?
Yeah, there is definitely some part of that where it's like, I've gotten better at this, but there's definitely some comparison stuff where I'm like, who am I to talk about this thing publicly or proclaim myself as an expert or whatever? And that's definitely been something that I have struggled with. I have gotten better at that. And I even this year, I finally put myself a bit out there and sold something that was like just for me. So I'm doing like a content marketing workshop in Boulder here, which is like, I'm stoked about it. It's great. But it was like the first time I've ever been like, hey, pay me directly for this product. I mean, it's a workshop, so you can call it a product. But, I see a lot of other people and I'm like, they're way better than me. Or like, I'm looking at like a guy like Elon Musk or something who I'm not even a millionth of a percentage of a guy like that. And I'm like, I'll let him take care of the big
there
stuff.
There are a bunch of people. And in this paleo world, in this keto world, there are a bunch of personalities who are personalities. Like, they feel like I was born to have a spotlight on me and to tell the rest of the world not just how to live, but how to eat and how to have sex, that this is who they are. I'm not talking about Jesse Elder necessarily, but I'm talking about like this collection of people. You don't feel like you're there. And to me, that's what makes you interesting. And because despite all that, you're now running Paleo Hacks. Revenue from Paleo Hacks last year, 2017, was what?
2017 was $6.5 million.
$6.5 million. How much of that was profit?
I can explain why this is the case, but our margins were below 10% last year, about 8% margins after I was paid. And you want me to dig into why that is? Or?
Yeah, let's go. We've got real entrepreneurs. They'll understand it.
Yeah. So last year was essentially the final year of us figuring out how to be super profitable with Facebook ads. And for the majority of 2017, we were losing money as we were optimizing our campaign. And that rapidly increased over the summer when we started working with a really good agency. Basically, we weren't profitable on Facebook ads, at least on day zero earnings, until the end of October for the year. So all the money, we made a lot of money from November to December. We made a lot of revenue up until then, but most of the profit just came at the end of the year. So this year, our margins are looking more like 20 to 30% range, which is about standard in my experience. Okay. But last year, we were operated very tight because we were just like, we're going to figure this out. Doesn't matter what it takes. We're going to make this work, because Facebook ads or paid media in general is like just a gold mine once it's working.
And you took over the business what year?
I became part owner of the business with Mike in 2014, May 12th, 2014.
All right, we'll talk about who Mike is because he's an interesting personality that I never heard of before you. I don't think directly, but boy, I looked him up while you and I were talking before this interview started. He's done some amazing stuff, so we've all seen his work. But first, let's go back in time a little bit. You told our producer, and this is where I start like armchair psychoanalyzing you. You said the first sentence in his notes to me were, "I've always been someone who comes into something already built and I improve it." First thing I got into was this drop shipping business that sold food online. Tell me about that, or that's one of the examples. What is that drop shipping business and what happened to it?
Well, yeah, so that whole statement is immediately proven incorrect by the improve part. That was I did that with the food company. In 2000 and I want to say 2010 or 2009, 2010, I dropped out of college, and I'm very fortunate. I have a little bit of shame around this, but I'm very fortunate in that my parents put together a college fund for me from birth. And when I dropped out of school, the money that was left over in that account was now mine. And so instead of wasting it on tuition, I decided to do the School of Hard Knocks, which was buy a business and see what's going to happen.
Oh, I wish I would have done that. I had no idea that was even a possibility. I would have done that. Okay.
Well, I mean, you have to have a significant amount of money left over from your parents to start. So that right. Definitely helped. But I partnered up with my roommate from college. And we both brought in money from part from my money, part from his money. And then we bought this business called True Foods Market off of Flippa.
And it's still available, truefoodmarkets.com. I'm on their site right now, right?
Yeah, it still exists. So we sold it.
Wait, before you jump to the sell, you bought it for how much and what did you do to it?
I bought it for $75,000. And so, by the way, there was 4 sites. It was True Foods Market. I can't remember the other 3 now. Wow, it's been so long. But there was 3 other. They were basically all clones of each other. They were on a site called a platform called OS Commerce, and we came in, and I didn't know anything about e-commerce at all at the time. And our goal was basically to just turn it into a real thing. So our first task was to switch to Magento because I had been sold on Magento as this like be all end all free commerce. It's basically exactly like Amazon. You know, you'll have an Amazon type store. By the way, that's super not true. And if you are investigating Magento, I hope you have tech help for that because it is not something where you can just have one random Magento developer. So we spent like a year shifting over to Magento. It was a disaster. We wasted a lot of money. We worked with a few really bad developers. And you can say that essentially the money went into the acquisition of the business, then more of my money went into the like fixing up of the business. And then finally it was just such a disaster. And I had so many other opportunities coming to me that we sold it, I believe in 2012 or 2013, for like $13,000.
Wow.
So we had a big exit, just killed it. And, but the really nice thing about that experience was I got a really big tax write-off that year. So that was nice.
Which you can then carry forward for a few years. Can't you?
I forget the entire details. I'm not sure if
You know what? Actually, I take it back. I'm not sure. I would need to know a little bit more to do that. But here's what I am seeing. The site is still up, but not fully, like still broken images and stuff. Are they doing drop shipping? Did they do drop shipping of food when you had it? So all you had to do was get sales?
Yeah, we were the drop shipper, so we worked with a couple of different suppliers, which for anybody who's in the food industry will know our struggles of dealing with those sorts of companies. They don't really care about you at all. So we would, the order would come to us. We'd send the orders to the drop shipper, and they'd ship the product directly there. Now the problem was, and part of the reason why we ended up, probably this was like a self-sabotage thing. I never really believed we'd ever be able to compete with a company like Amazon, right? I mean, because obvious reasons. And we were selling very similar products for more expensive, and the shipping prices we would really never be able to compete on. So I kind of was just like, I'm not sure if this will ever work out, but it was a good lesson. So yeah, we sold it to a guy. And frankly, we trained them for as long as we stipulated in the deal, but I really have no idea what's happened to it since then. I haven't looked at it.
What did you think you were going to do to the business, and what did you do right before we pass on from this?
I thought that better technology was this is a mistake that I used to make, which was basically shiny objects of good technology and just being like, yeah, we'll just make an Amazon clone. It'll be great, whatever. I fell in love with a developer who was like a friend kind of before. and was an unmitigated disaster and a person I really should have never hired.
You mean really in love or just loved the work?
In love the work, not really in love. But that will be an expression that I probably use again. But basically, like I was new to all this, so I was being sold on big promises of what things could do, and not really evaluating it from a realistic perspective, which is to say that like dev stuff, unless you have a really great person who's proven themselves to you, it never works out the way you think it's going to. It's always going to be more expensive. It's always going to take longer. And so yeah, I mean, I thought we were going to get better tech, and I thought that I was just, invincible, that like, yeah, I'll just touch it and it'll turn into gold. But it was a lot more of a problem and a lot more work too than I anticipated. I'm a direct response guy where it's like one product with a few upsells and a sales funnel, and that's very easy for me. Doing a site with 5,000 different and having to, resource accordingly. Sorry, I saw we cut for a second there. Having to use your resources accordingly for 5,000 products, that's a totally different ballgame. It's a totally different mindset, and I really never was able to make that mental switch, I think. So,
you know what? That is something that I hope we'll get some time to talk about, that it does feel like you've got this formula almost to the point where a lot of people in this space, they self-sabotage by getting bored. They say, I've figured it out. I need to move on, right? And so here's what I highlighted in my notes that I got from our producer. I've got the roadmap for direct response. It's already been written. It's get a converting offer, get upsells, split test, optimize, get paid traffic, scale, rinse, and repeat. And that's it, right?
Yeah. Super boring.
And so, right. And I do agree that it works. And I want to spend more time with you understanding how you did that. So you said that there were other opportunities that came up as you did it. What are the other opportunities? What'd you end up doing?
At the time, the two things that came up were two of my very close friends. One's name is Adam Gilad, and another's name is John Romanello. They had information businesses, and they are both, God, I hope they listen to this too. They are both traditional ENFP entrepreneurs. So like Adam probably more so than John. John's a little bit more straight and narrow sometimes, but they both needed someone to come in and basically take their assorted ideas that were all over the place and say, no, this is what we're doing. This is the plan. And to be their integrator, basically the operator side. And that's where I really have a strong suit. I'm not.
Why you? John Romanello is someone who I interviewed back when Ryan Holiday introduced me to him. He's the health guy, the author, he's got content marketing online, right?
Yeah, yes. I managed his New York Times book launch in 2012.
Really?
Yeah. I was running that whole thing.
So why did he think that you were going to be the person who could do it? Why did you believe that you could do it?
John and I knew each other from basically the get-go for him. Me and him met at an event called the Continuity Summit. Oh, no, actually, we met, I had a better name, the Fast Track to Fitness Millions event in New Jersey with Pat Rigsby and those guys. And John was friends with another guy that you may know named Joel Marion, and John was just getting started online. So me and him were kind of getting started online at a very similar time. And basically, I was doing the work behind the scenes for Adam's business and kind of let Roman know what I was doing. And he's like, oh, I need someone to do that in mine.
Why were you doing that for Adam's business? Was it that you needed to make money because your sites weren't doing well?
Yeah, I had like a local SEO. I was doing SEO for a few people while I was doing the drop shipping, and I was making some money, but there was a much bigger opportunity for me in diving into a direct response style business and really plugging myself in. I just had so much energy and motivation behind that, but I never wanted to be the face of something. So I did very briefly have an information product with my name on it, which was a WordPress SEO info product. But hated being the front facing thing of something and got rid of it as soon as possible. And yeah, basically I was like, I really want to do direct response funnels. I don't really know what I want to do for myself. I'd rather plug in with someone who's an expert on a subject and just run everything. Like it makes my life a lot easier because I can just be them. You know what I mean? Like from a marketing perspective. And it's very easy for me to do that as opposed to being me in a marketing perspective, if that makes sense.
It does. I feel like I could use someone like that at this point with Mixergy. And I've seen people get that way, right? Where they want that opportunity to just build something without the pressure of everything being on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was still a lot of pressure on me, don't get me wrong, but it's more like just the public facing thing. Like to be the content creator and the operator of business was, I just didn't want to do that. I didn't have that much interest in creating content about stuff. I love business operations. I love systems. I love the marketing in general, and I like being behind the scenes. And so it was a perfect fit for me, for both of them.
Was this
really.
WordPress SEO Blueprint? Was that your product?
Yeah. It still exists out there, huh?
Yes. The website was thewpseoblueprint.com.
I think so. Yeah, we couldn't use the full word WordPress because WordPress doesn't like when you do that.
I didn't know that, but WordPress can be pretty tough on people who do things that they shouldn't.
They have
don't
a pretty
like.
Trademark. Let me say that.
All right. Yeah, I keep doing research even as we're talking. All right, let me talk a bit about my sponsor and then come back in here and continue with the story. So my sponsor is a company called TopTal, and I think, frankly, David, you could have used TopTal back when you were switching over to Magento. And the reason is that I agree with you about Magento. I actually think that they started off taking on OS Commerce, and then they became as bloated as them, and it became really tough. And then Shopify came in and just crushed everybody, it seems like, right? But if you hadn't had your friend who you loved their work or but didn't love personally, I mean, like you weren't in love in a relationship with them.
Yeah, not quite.
If you need a developer, I would have suggested, look, you go to TopTal. And the reason that you want to go to TopTal for something like this is that they have people who just do this stuff all day long. And more than that, I looked at TopTal's back end and they're very uptight about me revealing too much. But fucking A, if they leave, they'll leave. It's such a basic thing, but they never like for me to reveal anything about how the business works. You just have to be really quiet. Forget it, then I won't reveal. But basically what they do is they get all these people who work on the same platforms to communicate with each other. So if they're working for you and they have a problem they can't overcome, they don't have to think about it on their own or come back to you and say, how would I do this in Magento? They have this team of other people that they could tap into. So what TopTal realizes, we have the best developers. Let's create a hive mind. So if any one of them needs someone to brainstorm with, think through an idea with, just get unstuck from, let's introduce them to each other. And that little bit of edge is what separates them from so many other sites. It's great developers who then also have access to other great developers, which is partially why so many people want to actually be in the TopTal network. Developers love being in that network. And most of them will not make it in because TopTal is very picky about who they allow in. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you've got a developer team and you need to augment it, add more to it, I urge you to check out TopTal. If you have just one developer and you're looking to start to build up, I urge you to go check out TopTal. If you're looking to hire full-time, part-time, project basis, I could forget the laundry list. Guys, you've heard me talk about them forever. You've heard my interviewees take down their name. I'm going to urge you to do the same thing. Whether you need them or a friend needs them, you're going to be glad that I gave you this referral. Not just to TopTal, but to the website where you're going to get 80 hours of TopTal developer credit when you pay for your first 80 hours, in addition to a no-risk trial period of up to 2 weeks. Think about that, no-risk trial period. The URL is top as in top of your head, tal as in talent, toptal.com/mixerg. Go check them out. And I was going to say, tell them Andrew sent you. You don't even have to. Frankly, even if you hate me and you don't want me to get credit for it, I still love you guys, and I will want you to go sign up for TopTal because it's going to change your business. Really. It's change the way you think about developers. All right. So you were doing all this stuff, David, and you said, I think I've got something here. How did you end up in the paleo world?
So when I was working behind the scenes with Adam and Roman, I got this idea that I could do more of it and I could scale this business operations thing. This is still like, I'm still in my 20s for a few more months, but this is my 20s ego talking. And at the end of August, I'm going to come back and say, in my 20s, I used to think like this. But basically, I thought I could do this for more people. And so I started kind of reaching out and had some feelers and basically had a partnership with a guy named AJ where we decided we were going to go out and do this with a few different people. And one of the people that came to us was a guy named Patrick and a company called Paleo Hacks. And it was referred to us through a guy named Neil Patel, who I think the listeners might know. And basically, Paleo Hacks at the time was just a forum that was very popular, but it was making like a couple grand a month. And there was an email list, but it wasn't being used. There was no products. There was nothing. And I just so happened to have just started eating paleo within the previous year and a half or so, which had changed my life dramatically. I in 2011, when I moved to San Diego, I was like 22 or 23, and I felt like I was a 90-year-old man from a perspective of like I couldn't remember anything where I was leaving my car key. Like every time I left the apartment, I'd have to go back in the apartment like 7 times to get something that I forgot. I was exhausted during the day, but couldn't sleep at night. I was depressed. I was anxious. I had all sorts of weird stuff going on. That was like, for most of my life, it was kind of like that, especially depression. That was like a big issue for me. Turns out that when I did some testing, that my hormones were super out of whack. So I got my testosterone tested and happened to compare the numbers to my mom, who at the time was 56. Mom, sorry. And her testosterone was significantly higher than mine. Okay, so as a 23-year-old male, a 56-year-old woman really shouldn't have higher testosterone than you. So that was a huge red flag for me, obviously, that something was messed up. It turned out I had something called stage 3 fatigue.
Wait, you had what? Sorry.
And essentially, I had stage 3 adrenal fatigue. So
wow, okay.
Essentially, what that means is through various stressors on my body, whether it's food I was eating or just, lifestyle habits, basically my body was having trouble producing testosterone properly, and that leads to all sorts of weird stuff like memory loss and anxiety and depression and insomnia and that sort of stuff. So a big part of it was my diet, and I'm sure people listening have all their own opinions on like gluten intolerance and that sort of stuff, but truthfully for me, one of my biggest staple foods was cereal. I would eat it for constantly. And when my friend was like, hey dude, there's this diet called paleo, it's going to help you out, we're just going to eat like a shit ton of meat all day, I'm like, cool, that's my favorite food. Love me some meat. So I'll do it, no brainer. And like the first 3 months were pretty rough, where I kind of went through this like detox phase, I would say. And after that, I started feeling better month after month after month. And now, like, I have, sometimes I'm tired, sometimes I'm depressed, whatever. But in general, my health now is like infinitely better than it ever was growing up. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I've actually kind of gone younger, sort of, and that's why I look this way. I just don't age. I've opted out of that.
I see that. And what? I'm glad that you explained also paleo and the effects of it. I went to Wikipedia. I was trying to find a non-controversial way of explaining it, and I like how right in Wikipedia they called it a fad diet in the first sentence. I realized, okay, I'm not going to get my I forget the word that I was about to say. I'm not going to get the right phrase from them. So you were then into this world, and was it at that point that you were introduced to paleo hacks and you said, you know what, AJ and I could help them? What's AJ's last name? I forget.
Kumar.
Isn't he also a relative of Neil Patel's?
No, that's Sujin.
Okay.
Is Neil
no, they went to school together. And then Neil used to introduce him to people, and Neil helped him a ton. All right. And so the two of you went to Paleo Hacks and you said, we're going to help. What did you help Paleo Hacks with? What'd you do?
Turning it into a business, really, is the best way to describe it. So I was like, we should build a blog, which is one of the first projects we took up. And
this was 2013 that you did that?
Yeah, I think the first half of 2013. And I also said, we need a product. We don't have any products, but we have this email list of people who I know will buy them. So let's do it. And so we also created a cookbook. But with that, actually, instead of creating a cookbook from scratch, this was really easy. I just went on ClickBank, and the #1 paleo cookbook was a woman named Nikki Young, and her marketing was okay, but there just wasn't really any competition to her. And I was like, hey, let's just license this cookbook from her and rebrand it and everything, and we'll do that. And we gave her a royalty. And so we rebranded it. We did that. And because creating a cookbook, we create our own fully from scratch now. But it's a time intensive process. It's not, especially if there's like baked goods, when you're testing a recipe and every test takes a minimum of an hour, that adds up when you have like hundreds of recipes. So we just licensed it, and then we became the #1 cookbook in ClickBank after that. And
so you gave her a payment every time you sold. You didn't even commit to any amount. I'm looking at an earlier version. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It was a percentage of each sale.
Percentage of each sale. I'm looking at Paleo Hacks from 2013. It was an old Stack Exchange site. Stack Exchange was a place where you could, it was software that you can use to create a question and answer site. Anyone could write a question, other people could vote on it, they could answer it, and then we all vote on what the best answer is. I had a Stack Exchange site at the time, and I had a hard time making it work, and I let it languish. And then Stack Exchange, Joel Spolsky, the founder of the company, said, "You know what? On second thought, I don't want everyone to use this software." I had him on to do an interview the day that he stopped that. He let us all use it for a lot longer than he thought he would. He said, "You know what? These guys trust me. I'll let them use it." But you guys made it work. Do you remember what it was that made it work for you guys where it didn't work for so many others?
I think for Paleo Hacks, the Stack Exchange stuff working was very much a factor of being in first person. So Patrick made it, I think, back in 2009 or 2010. So, and that was at least from 2010, I would say, to 2014, maybe a little bit before that, was when Paleo was absolutely at its hottest. So basically, it was the only real place for people to talk and stuff. I mean, Mark Sisson had his forum on his site, but that was not Paleo. It's his own, its own thing. It's Primal. And it wasn't as easy a forum is not as easy to use as a Stack Exchange type of site. Stack Exchange is built to be very easy to set up an account and immediately start participating. It's gamified. It's really an amazing content management system. And so it was a big factor, just time and ease of use. It was well for the demographic he was targeting at the time.
I'm surprised it didn't take off. And then other people started copying it in multiple different ways. I think even Sujin Patel had a copy of it. Maybe it wasn't Sujin. It was one of Neil Patel's friends, basically. Sorry?
Of Stack Exchange?
Yeah, maybe it wasn't Sujin. It was one of Neil Patel's friends who basically said, "I'm going to copy Stack Exchange, make it into software that anyone can use," because Joel wouldn't. I am, like I said, on the version of the site that you were managing at the time, and I see questions like, here's one that had a lot of views: what to do with chicken backs and necks. Here's another one, paleo diets for senior citizens. So people basically weren't even asking it as a question. They needed to reformulate it as a question, but they wanted to know a little bit more about how to have a paleo lifestyle and what to do with the foods that they were interested in. Here, what's the consensus on stevia, for example, is a popular question. And so you said, look, this is not enough. We need a blog. Why do you need a blog? Why wasn't it enough that people were writing content for you?
I was and am still relatively bearish on user-generated content. I think that it obviously was great for building up an audience, and user-generated content in general is good as a greater mix, I think, of content than just being all in, because user-generated content you can't really control, and because we were very much a Google-focused business. I was always concerned that Google was going to be like, you know what I don't like anymore? I don't like those short user-generated content posts. So we're going to push those down in the rankings, and we're going to focus on like long 2,500 word articles and stuff, which, we've been very consistent with the forums, organic traffic for the past, 4 years or whatever. But, I would say that we have seen monumental increases in our organic traffic from our content, that's our created content specifically designed for Google and Facebook and all that sort of stuff, than compared to the user-generated content. I just felt like we had more control over it. I'm big on diversifying your portfolio of stuff. I never really like relying on one source of anything, whether that's like marketing strategy or paid traffic source or whatever it is. So it was more like a long-term mitigation of risk sort of approach. That's why I did it.
Who's Patrick? I see Patrick is spelled Patrik, right?
Yeah, though I feel like it's different when I email him. Sometimes it's fully Patrick with a C. I'm not sure.
Strangely, I don't see his last name a lot on the site. There was a question that I saw on Paleo Hacks asking who is the real Patrick. Is he a mystery guy? What is this? Am I the only one who doesn't know?
No, he's a real deal. His name is Patrick Vlaskovits, and he wrote a New York Times bestseller called The Lean Entrepreneur. And I believe it was around 2013 that he did that. Patrick also has a company called Superpowered, which he's told me about it, but that the tech is a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. But essentially, he's creating some sort of software to help music producers, I believe. And he's got like some guy who's amazing at it.
Oh, you know what? I think I either know him or I read the book for an interview. Now I see he wrote the book with Brant Cooper.
Yeah.
I remember because this was back, I think, when Eric Ries had a series of books on the Lean Startup.
Yeah. It was like it was almost like a children's book format for the it was like
right.
visual and stuff.
At least the cover looks like it. It's been a while since I read the book. All right, I got a sense now of who he is. Do you feel like he just didn't want to be associated with the space because he's in the startup world?
No, I didn't really get that impression from him. It was more like as we continued to work together, he had more and more stuff coming his way and more opportunities where, I'm not the easiest person to work with. I will be hopefully the first person to admit that. I think that, and some of the ways that I do stuff is not as buttoned up as some people might like. And so I think that it was a combination of other opportunities, probably an increase in stress, from probably me and the way that I work and also the stuff we were doing as a company. And so I don't think there's ever a feeling of he didn't want to be associated with it, but Patrick is a very, how do I describe it? Like an entrepreneur who's very much not going to get like super emotionally invested in stuff. He's going to look at it very quantitatively, very strategically from a pure business perspective. I see we're frozen for a second here.
Yeah, there we go. I'm glad
he's going to look at stuff very. Yeah, so from a pure business perspective, he's going to look at that stuff. And I think he just got to a point where he was like, okay, this is stressing me out. It's not what I'm in love with. It's making me money, but I'd rather.
What's the stress? What was the stress related to it?
I would say the stress was specifically from a launch we did. So we did a summit in 2013 called PaleoCon, where we had my really good friend John Durant as the host of it. And it did well. It did really well. We made a lot of money, and we added like 50,000 people to our email list. It was gret, but
50,000 people to the email list.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really good. But I don't know how many launches you've been a part of, but they can be extraordinarily stressful. And when you have one person running the launch, and then you have another person who is like, this is my baby, and I own this thing, and I swear to God, if you mess it up, I'm going to ruin you, sort of, that sort of thing. And it's not really like that intense, but you know what I mean?
It's right. I feel that way about Mixergy, right? Like, don't fuck with my name here because it is so associated with me. It's hard.
Yeah. And so I think he had I think it was just like general anxiety about like there's a lot of stuff going on. It would have been easy for something to break and like ruin his reputation or something like that. And I think like in general, again, it kind of a combination of that plus it not being him not seeing himself in this role long term came to this point where he's like, I just don't, even though the money's good, even though this is heading in the right direction, I'd rather just pass it off and focus on the stuff that I'm best at,
Are these the people that you guys got to participate? Dave Asprey, you got Mark Sisson, who we talked about earlier, who's a killer name on his own. Abel James, I know him. John Durant. So you got a bunch of Manish Sethi, and all these people then help promote it, and their names help promote it, and that means that everyone who wants to come watch them is entering their email address, and as a result, you grow your list, and then everyone afterwards who missed it or wants a copy of it comes back to the site, and to this day, they can go to paleocon.com and buy it for, $50?
Yeah, that's the recordings from the event for sure. Yeah,
right, and then there's an upsell and all that other stuff that you were talking about is still in there.
Yeah.
All right, I get it. Let me take a moment to talk about my second sponsor, and then we'll continue with the story, because if he wasn't excited about it and you were, I'm curious about what you did to transition. So the second sponsor is a company called HostGator. Boy, for some reason I can't remember the name of the guy at Baby Bathwater, but he was basically really well-dressed guy, always had interesting hats on, and we shared we shared a lodge. We each had our own room, our own bathroom, which actually I didn't know. At the end, last day, we're kind of hanging out in the living room of this place at Baby Bathwater, and I say to him, can I ask you a personal question? And he goes, and I could tell he wanted to say no, but he said yes despite himself. I said, why don't you shower? Because I was being so clean with the shower. And he goes, I showered every day. What do you mean? I go, I keep looking in the shower. The towels aren't being used or anything. He goes, I have a freaking shower in my room. I'm not slumming it with you sharing it. And I had no idea. And of course, I should have known. These people at Baby Bathwater, I think the name is just such a weird name, and I think they love that it's weird. They love that it turns people off. But it's like everything, despite their cool attitude, everything is so well taken care of. Like whatever you need a ride to the top of the mountain so you can ski, go get a ride. You need somebody to draw out for you where you're going to go run, because I'm not a skier, I want to run. They're going to draw it out for you. You're a vegetarian, which I am. I don't know how they knew. I know actually how they did it. I don't want to talk too much about Baby Bathwater because I got to talk about HostGator, but I was fascinated by them. Someone from Baby Bathwater walks up to me and said, "You're Andrew, right?" I go, "Yes." She puts a green napkin on my plate. She says, "We want to make sure you get your vegetarian food." I said later on, "How did you know it was me?" She said, "We study the attendees before they come." Like, what? This is brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. And then you took a photo, the number one most liked photo in the app. They have a great app. You know, which one am I talking about? Tell them.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, the co-founder of Baby Bathwater is a guy named Michael Lovitch, who is just a experienced partier. And I caught him taking a nap in the middle of a room. This is actually a bar, or is not? I wouldn't say a room is an understatement. Passed out. No, actually, passed out sounds like he was passed out drunk. Let's just say taking a nap. Right. With his daughter on the couch in the middle of a room of 50 to 60, like, loud,
Some of them are doing all kinds of weird drugs. Yeah. Others are drinking. And then others will not touch a drink, will only touch meat, and water. And the reason that I love that photo is every detail was taken care of, but they didn't have to. The two co-founders didn't have to do anything. That's a business. That's a business. All right. So here's the thing. So this guy, I finally at the end discover what he does. He has this website where you can go and pay him money, and he's going to tell you what to text your wife to get your wife into bed. It's like the thing that.
Haddad.
Sorry?
Chris Haddad is who you're talking about.
Yeah, Chris. So the thing that makes me remember HostGator with that is, all you need is a website, ability to collect payment, and an interesting hook like that. And he's got nothing. He doesn't have like complicated technology. He's not installing Magento on this freaking thing. He just says, look, everyone's telling you how to go get laid by some woman on the street. There are a bunch of people who are in relationships that want to have more intimacy, want to actually like reconnect with their wives. Maybe their wives aren't paying attention to them. I'm going to create this thing. Listen, guys, if you're out there and you have an idea, it is still so interesting how you can take your idea, good copywriting, good clever hook, and a little bit of marketing and turn it into something really big. And if you want to, go to HostGator.com. If you want to have it hosted, go to HostGator.com, because frankly, HostGator will host it right and not charge you that much. We're looking at under $3 a month under one of their plans. You can go to HostGator.com/Mixergy to get details. And as you scale up the business, maybe you're buying more traffic, maybe you're doing a virtual summit, maybe you're doing something else that's working for you. You want to scale it up. They don't list it on their website because all they do is they show their cheaper plans, but they'll get anything that you're looking for, including managed WordPress hosting, dedicated server, whatever you need. They'll scale it up and they'll charge you less than the competition. HostGator.com/Mixergy. Many interviewees here on Mixergy have said, hey, you know what? I signed up for HostGator and they recommend it, and I do too. Go to HostGator.com/Mixergy. Be sure to check out that $100 AdWords offer. It comes with the account, and don't worry, they've got a 45-day money-back guarantee. HostGator.com/Mixergy. You know what? I just freaking love doing the ads in these things because I used to be a radio guy. I loved listening to radio. And I read this, I got this audiobook about Paul Harvey, and Paul Harvey was the guy who was making the most money in this gig of radio. In fact, Forbes magazine at the time said, you think CEOs make a lot of money? Check out how much Paul Harvey makes. And it was even more than CEOs. And what was interesting about him and other people like him who succeeded in radio, they were good at their craft. They did their research. They did their work. He would just even run up and down the hallway as like stuffy as he was to get his voice ready. But they prided themselves on doing well with their ads, that they were going to be really good and take it seriously. There's a great article somewhere now about Shaquille O'Neal. He's making way more money now endorsing products like Icy Hot. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's probably not even Icy Hot. It's one of those things.
No,
but is it Icy Hot?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's got tons of these endorsements, but the thing that apparently separates him from others is he doesn't just do all these. He brings all of his companies together and says, what can I do for you? Let's get us all together and talk strategy. So I'm not just going to be the pitch man. I'm going to be the guy helping you. Ring.com, he's got that, right?
Yeah, he's done enormously well. He also said he only works with companies that he really can get behind. So there was like a whole thing where Wheaties wanted him to be on the cover, and he's like, I don't eat Wheaties. I'm not going to be on the cover of Wheaties. And there you go. So
yeah, it makes sense. And only things that are like, he knows that what he wants is the middle class, that's his niche, that's his audience. Really clever. So, where I think other people turn away from ads, and I notice more and more podcasters are playing music under their ads to separate, to say, listen, I'm playing music. I don't really love this. This is my way of signaling to, they're paying me. I want to be the opposite, the person who really cares and only runs the ads that I care about. All right, coming back to you.
Back, please, by all means.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to do an interview with David and not talk about Andrew and his philosophy on advertising. So now you're in this space. Patrick is interested in moving on. I guess you don't have the money to go and buy it. Why didn't you just buy it yourself?
Cause it was a very substantial amount of money for me. I shouldn't say substantial amount of money for me. Like it was even a realistic possibility of me being able to afford it. It was like a significant 6-figure sum of money that I just didn't have laying around, which would have been really nice because I would have taken it in a heartbeat. But, I did not, definitely couldn't afford it.
You told our producer I went to talk to my mentor about it. Who's this mentor who helped you out?
Michael Lovitch, in fact.
Really?
Yeah, one of the few people I have ever paid for consulting, and probably the highest ROI consultant for me, because I would directly, I wouldn't say it's necessarily something he did in particular, but conversations with him and whatnot strongly led to. Oh, hang on, did we freeze for a second, or were you standing very still?
No, I hope I'm not.
I was saying so. No, you're good. So Lovitch and me talked a lot because I was like, hey, I've got this thing, it's working out well, but the owner wants to break off or whatever. I'm like, do you know anybody I should sell it to? And we discussed a lot of that sort of stuff. And, Mike Geary came to, where I was like, what about Mike Geary? And he was like, that's perfect. He'd be a great guy for it. And also, Michael's co-founder, Hollis, is best friends with Mike. And so at this time, I had no relationship with Mike whatsoever, but I was like, ooh, maybe between Hollis, Michael, and myself, we can get this on his radar and see if he would be the acquirer, because Mike has been enormously successful online for over a decade. The one weird trick sort of stuff that you see these days.
That was that hook, that headline that he wrote. One weird trick to do what?
To get a flat belly. I am pretty certain that he is the one who came up with that. If he wasn't, he's the one who popularized it for sure. So he had been enormously successful with a product called The Truth About Abs from 2006, I want to say. And he was one of the first guys to get, at least in our little health and fitness space, to get AdWords working profitably. And so while everyone else was focused on affiliates, Mike was on paid media. And so his business grew exponentially faster than a lot of the other people in the space. And after doing that for many, many years, Mike had some disposable income and was looking for investment opportunities. And so essentially, when we finished up PaleoCon, the event, Patrick was kind of like, if things are going to be this stressful, I really would just like to get rid of the business and whatnot. I'm like, whoa, hang on. Like, let me see what I can do here. And so the first person I actually reached out to was Mark Sisson, who was not really interested. It wasn't really a good fit for him, and I think it was the better decision for both of us, truthfully. Because Mark's got his own thing, Primal. And so, he basically created a blue ocean in this paleo space by making up his own diet protocol. And so, while we do have complementary businesses in that Paleo Hacks will promote Mark Sisson when he's got stuff that's worth us promoting and so on, and they'll promote our cookbooks as well. It wasn't like a seamless fit. And I don't know if this is true or not, but me and him might have had different opinions on how the business should have been run or something. That never came up, but I had a hunch that might have ended up coming. Who knows, really? But he's the
kind of person who has just invented the ideal life for himself. That you look at him, he's an older guy. I asked him to show me his abs in an interview. He lifted a shirt. He showed me his abs. There's no hidden tricks here. Middle of the day, he'll just go and take a walk in his not a walk in his backyard. He'll do what is that? Tightrope in his backyard type of thing. That's his life.
So Sisson has been running, I think he just moved out of Malibu, but he was running an ultimate frisbee game up there every Sunday for 17 years. And so I'd go up and play with them occasionally. And he's probably the third oldest guy on the field, but easily the most fit by far. Like not even.
So yeah, he doesn't. I get why he wouldn't want to mess with anything else, and I get how you're looking for someone different. Mike Geary, his background was he would be a good fit. Was it a tough decision for him to buy it? Was it a tough purchase?
Mike is the most numbers-focused, left-brain, analytical person maybe on the planet. And so essentially what happened was I emailed him a couple times and was like, bro, I have this thing I want to talk to you about. Let's get on the phone. Wouldn't get on the phone with me. And he, by the way, business partners for 4 years now, and that's still like something he's not a phone guy. And finally I was like, okay. And the email, I was like, dude, I want you to buy this company. Like it's legit. And he was like, oh, okay, let's get on the phone like tonight. I was like, oh my God, this whole time I could have been on the phone. And because Patrick had set a deadline for me to find somebody potentially.
And the reason you didn't get on the phone with him before was you weren't explicit. I said I want to get on the phone without saying I want to get on the phone so you could buy this business.
Yeah, I wanted to save the story for the phone, which was a mistake. I've learned now that like that's not a good way to get people on the phone because they're like, I'm not going to get baited into a phone call with somebody.
Which I don't know what it's about for. Right, yeah. And a phone call was a really tough thing to schedule anyway. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Very busy person. And so I wrote, basically for him, he was just like, I had promoted some of his products through Paleo Hacks as an affiliate. And he basically was like, okay, I know that for each email you send out with the email list, it makes X amount of dollars. And I think that the email list will grow this amount over the next amount of years. And based on that, I think I'll be paid back in a year and a half or 2 years, with all things being equal. So yeah, sure, let's do it. It makes sense. Like, and he asked around our space and got some people to vouch for me, including Lovitch and Hollis, which was very good. Then about 3 months, maybe 3 months, 2 to 3 months after that decision was made was when the deal was finalized, because contract negotiations can take forever and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, he took it over in May of 2014 and bought it from Patrick. And then I have vested equity over time to being almost 50-50, but not quite 60-40.
Wow. Over how long? When do you get to the almost 50-50 mark?
I'm at 40 now. So I hit that. So I'm
oh, wow. So without having to put in money, just putting in the effort to run it, you're getting close to 50-50 in the deal. I see. Okay. So it wasn't just like, hey, buy this company so I have a job. It's buy this company so that we own this company together and I could make it into.
Absolutely. There was no way I was going to commit myself to something long, because I knew that we were going to grow it and I knew it was going to work out well. I knew that my financial help was minimal, especially compared to Mike. But I knew that he wasn't going to he wasn't going to work on it. He was like, I'll make this part of my portfolio of companies and you can be the CEO and operator. And I was like, yeah, that's great. But I need ownership. I need significant ownership. I'm not going to attach myself.
You said right off the bat, I need to get to significant ownership, and here's how it's going to look.
Because I was going to get ownership with Patrick, but essentially the timing worked out so that right before we had to make that decision, we moved it off to Mike. So yeah,
did the business sell for more than $250,000 in cash?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about a significant amount of money. You couldn't even have borrowed it to get to that.
I mean, I grew up in an affluent family, but this was a sum of money that there was no way I was going to.
Over $1 million?
No. It's like, I think the final price was like $450K.
Wow. Right. And it's a big investment. What Mike, tell me if I'm misunderstanding. What Mike also how do you feel about saying that number? I'm looking at your eyes and I see that you're a little hesitant now.
I'm just going to say, that was the final price, but it was basically 450 straight up, 500 but over a period of time, or 550 over a longer period of time, and Patrick picked the
450 all at once.
Yeah.
And what you're thinking was Mike's product alone could help us pay for the whole business, because if we just run his product, no,
that wasn't what I was thinking at all. Actually, what I was thinking is Mike has a email list of 20,000 affiliates. That's not his marketing email list, which is like 1 million people. This is just people who he knows that will promote. And so in our space, Mike has such a good reputation that when he says, hey, I just bought this company, Paleo Hacks, and I has this cookbook that converts well for my list, you should promote it. Immediately, and I'm talking about overnight, we're generating like 20 to 50 extra sales per day, rapidly increasing, because all of these affiliates are plugging us into their traffic all of a sudden. So that's one thing. Another thing is that Mike being financially successful for so long, had capital to invest in the company for other stuff. Because it's not just like when you acquire a company, there's no money in that bank account, right? So you have to have working capital on top of that. So with the initial investment plus an extra, probably 6-figure sum of money, that was another thing. And also, he didn't have any financial pressure at all. So like there was never this like, oh my God, we better make this work, or like it's going to ruin my life or something like that. Like he was always fine and okay with, the logistics of acquiring a company and in it long term. Also, me and him see very eye to eye about business. We're both very left brained, I'm probably a little more emotional, I think, but in general, we both, if Mike says, hey, Dave, I have this idea for you, it's going to make you more money, it guaranteed is going to make me more money because Mike has proven it or tested it. He doesn't just say theory stuff. That's just not how he operates. So yeah, and
you guys still don't communicate by phone. If you communicate, it's not email, is it?
It's email. We recently had a funny conversation in email where, I didn't like think about how my words were going to come off. And then me and him got into a funny back and forth. And then we talked about it in person. It was like, had we just talked in person from the start, there would have never been any, never been any miscommunication. And so like, we definitely email is our main channel, but the truth is the easiest way to get a hold of him is just go to his house in Utah, and then that's when we get our most talking done. So we email like almost every day, and then if I can get him on the phone when I need to, I will. But other than that, I'll just fly to Utah, down the street.
Were you there? So we met in Utah, you and I, at Baby Bathwater. Did you get to go see Mike around that time too, since you were there anyway?
Yes. So he lives in Huntsville, which is right down the street from Powder Mountain, or where Powder Mountain is. And so I stayed at his house. And then you
drive up to Powder Mountain every day to be with everyone?
Yeah, I rented a car and everything. Yeah.
Wow,
which was very interesting, as you know, because of the weather conditions on this most recent event. My Hyundai Santa Fe, amazing car for snow. Just for everybody.
Wow.
Hyundai Santa Fe, can't go wrong.
Wow. I can't believe there are a handful of people who drove their own cars. I just couldn't imagine dealing with the snow.
Yeah.
So what did you do to change things once you bought it? Well, actually, you know what? There's something let me take us off track for a moment just to understand. You said these affiliates will plug us into their traffic. What does that mean?
It means a couple things. One is that most of these people had products that they were selling and had email sequences after you purchased the product that usually were promoting other affiliate offers. So plugging us into those email sequences.
And they do it after you buy the product? They don't do it if you don't buy it?
They have those too. So we're plugged into customer autoresponders. We're plugged into lead autoresponders, like leading up to this. So
that's how this business works. Somebody says, I've got these people. I'm buying traffic anyway. I can't create enough product to maximize my revenue from them. I'm going to put this stuff on the back end. Okay.
Yeah. And also through email broadcasts as well. So not just automated email sequences, but just like, a lot of the guys in our space mail their list every day. And so they're looking for offers to send to those lists. And so we were one that was new, unique, that hadn't been promoted before in the space. And so it was a good fit because it was a converting offer. And that's really the big key. But a converting offer plus Mike getting on a megaphone and saying, hey, promote this, that was a match made in heaven. And that, I mean, really, it was almost like immediate that we were probably quintupling our sales revenue when he came on board. Again, just a lot of it
just from the relationships.
Yeah, and also from Mike promoting our stuff as well. I mean, Mike has an enormous following. He's got other partners that in companies he's invested in as well that will promote us and stuff. And so we had a whole network essentially built in right off.
And this was all for a book that you guys didn't write. That your idea was to go and partner with someone who had it, and you still had. So today, I have to tell you, in researching you, fucking A, dude, I curse so much, but when I get passionate, I curse. I've got to stop that. You guys have such beautiful looking recipes. There's one for some pancake that doesn't include the stuff that's usually in pancakes. There's another one where you hollow out a cucumber and you put something else in it. I was researching you, and so I keep looking at this stuff, and I got hungry. So today, it's all your own photos, your own recipes?
Not my photos.
But your company.
Yeah. Everything we do now, in terms of recipe stuff is custom. So when we hire writers, they are essentially professional food photographers as well. So we used to do stock photos when we didn't have as much resources, but as soon as that was a viable option, we immediately switched because, we wanted real food stuff and whatnot.
You know what? I see it actually. So you guys had some kind of a deal with Pop Sugar. You post recipes on Pop.
Yeah, we
Pop Sugar.
syndicate some of our content to Pop Sugar. Yeah.
And so some of those photos are not yours, but I can see that the others are, like Start Your Day Off Right with these scrumptious paleo keto waffles. And that's published by Paleo Hacks. And those are the content.
What you're seeing is like a compilation post probably. So when we do an individual recipe, that's all us. But sometimes we'll do like 33 coconut flour recipes or something. Where
this one is, it's not a compilation. This one is just, paleo waffles.
Then maybe we're syndicating from Pop Sugar or we're syndicating to Pop Sugar. But yeah, sometimes I guess we are syndicating other people's content on our site.
No, sorry. Just to be clear, this is you guys posting on their site, and then you get a link back to your site.
So we created that recipe uniquely on our site. They just syndicate it and link back. Yeah, that's what.
Yep, exactly. I see. And even the image source is Paleo Hacks at that point. Yep. So this is how far you guys have come from not even having your own product to now creating recipes for blog posts, which then you turn into a book. What else did you do once you took over to improve the business?
I hired someone for the blog who has been just the light of my life. Her name is Charisma, and she was formerly a managing editor at a company called Food Beast. She was my first real hire, and so she built an actual editorial program for us and just has crushed it for us, and that's why we have such good content these days. And then I hired people beyond her, but that was one big kind of step forward. Created new products beyond that. So I actually ended up doing a few more deals with Nikki where I actually bought a finished cookbook from her. I didn't do the licensing. We just bought it outright. We did a few others that she created for us. We had another cookbook fall into our lap that someone was like, "Hey, I made this cookbook about bone broth. I don't have anything to do with it. You want to sell it?" And I was like, "Yes." And then we've created our own stuff since then. Our biggest win in the product space being our 2 free plus shipping cookbooks, one with a guy named Pete Servold, Chef Pete, and another with Kelsey Ale. And so I would say aside from, general business building stuff, so building out the blog, coming up with new products, building an operational team, the free plus shipping books, and then the paid advertising that we've got into after that.
Why free plus shipping? Because you then tell me how that stuff works. I know that this is an amateur question, but
no, it's not. It's not. And I really appreciate the opportunity to explain it because I think some people hear free plus shipping and they're like, that's a scam. And I did want to very quickly explain some logic. So basically, if we sold that cookbook, Paleo Sweets or Paleo Eats, for $10 straight up, the psychological reaction to that is, why is this cookbook so cheap? And it's a sale. Now, if we take that same price, which we do, well, actually, it's cheaper for affiliates, but for our paid media, it's $9.95 for shipping for Paleo Sweets, and that covers our actual entire costs of goods and our ad costs and stuff, and then we have upsells after that. But basically, it's a psychological thing when you say it's a free book plus shipping, even if it's the same exact price that they pay normally, for whatever reason, it gets through people's mental walls.
But I mean, you guys are making money on that. What you're doing is you are.
Yeah. So basically, the way the model works is on the front end, we have, let's just say we'll do for paid media specifically. We have our $9.95 free plus shipping. So our cost of goods on that is about $3.85 to get the book printed, shipped, and fulfilled, or printed, fulfilled, and shipped. That's the correct order of operations. And then after they purchase that, and let's say, for one of our agencies, we're getting a CPA of about $14.50. So all in, that puts us at about, let's just say, $18 of what we have to make up for. So that a first purchase gets us $9.95 closer, and then we've got another, $8-ish that we have to make up for on the back end. So we have 4 upsells. So we're very aggressive direct response marketers. I want to get that out there. They're all one-click upsells. So it's you check out with Paleo Sweets. You enter in your payment information, click submit. You're taken to a page that says, "Hey, thanks so much for investing in Paleo Sweets. Because you took us up on our offer today, we've got another special offer for you, and that is the Paleo Recipe Collection, which for some reason is our best-selling upsell by far, but it's super random. It's muffin recipes, dinner recipes, and chicken recipes. It could be more random, but it's very random. And what's it called? That's the first upsell, $29.95, and that adds an average of $6 to $7 to the average order value. And then each upsell after that adds a few more bucks. So upsell 2 is usually in the 150 to 250 range. Then upsell 3 and 4, about 50 cents added on there. And then you've got our customer autoresponder sequence, which it's really hard to calculate like the per customer thing because of how the timing works. But that usually adds another, 50 cents to $1 per customer too. So all in, we end up being profitable by the end of it. And with our Facebook ads, on average these days, we make maybe like $1 to $2 per customer profit on day 0, which is like super amazing. I'm stoked about that. I'm happy to make any money on day 0, truthfully. But that's kind of how the economics work.
And then you've got them on your list, and over time they buy more and they contribute more to the forum, which is no longer Stack Exchange forum. You shifted to something else.
Yes.
Okay. What did you guys shift to?
That was a really fun another one of those like tech things that I've dealt with historically. I've had I got all sorts of epic stories of me getting just crushed by tech companies. Basically, so as you mentioned, Stack Exchange, Joel woke up one day and was like, hey, so if you're going to keep using our platform, we need to own the intellectual property of your website. And we were like, no, that doesn't sound like a good idea for us at all. Like
basically what he said was, I'm going to roll it into my collection of Stack Exchange sites. I'm not right. Yeah. That's not what you want to do.
Yeah. I'm not going to just give this thing to you. Like, doesn't make any sense. So we had to migrate. We had like a deadline. I mean, they were very flexible. They let us take our time, but we migrated to a tool called Answer Hub, which was a $36,000 a year platform that, I hope it's come a long way since we used it, but it came with its own set of issues. And then after almost a year on that, we went off of it and built our own custom one, which came with its own set of, hang on. I see I've been doing the crackling thing. It came with its own set of issues. And so now it's on a fully customized one, but we don't really touch it as much anymore because there's just so many other priorities in the business now.
And so you don't do what anymore?
I haven't tried to customize the forum software as much in the past 2 years, probably because we have so many other bigger needs in the business and bigger profit opportunities. Also, the fact that we built it on this custom thing has kind of limited our ability to just like, it's one of those things where I can take $1 and I can put it in there and get $0 back, or I can take that same dollar and put it in any other part of the business and at least get something back out of it. So it ends up getting on the back burner a lot.
Yeah. You know what? It seems like that happened for almost everyone. If you go back and listen to my interview with Jason Calacanis, when he launched Question and Answer on his site, he had it figured out. He told me he went all the way to Korea. He understood how this question and answer thing worked, and it still didn't take off. And frankly, it's not his fault. It's no one's fault. There's something about this question and answer thing that doesn't produce. It's not what I thought it would be. I thought this was perfect. I hate forums where people can just write anything and when you ask a question, people say go search for it first, but the search sucks, right? Versus question and answer where people get points for answering.
Yeah, very Reddit-like, yeah. I don't know. I think we hurt our usership when we switched platforms a few times. Then it just, again, there was more profit opportunities elsewhere. So,
yeah. All right. So you were a little anxious when we started. How does it feel now?
I feel great, man. You're an excellent interviewer, I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's not like we just gave you softball question after softball question, right? So I'm not saying he's anxious. I want to make sure he's okay. I want to treat him like a guest in my house. No. And so I feel like we fully got an understanding of who you are. The anxiety, the childhood stuff, which most people I don't feel are comfortable talking about, but I think it gives people a sense of who you are and want to care about you. Otherwise, you come across as an info marketer. And second, we also understood some of the info marketing stuff, the math behind it. All right. I feel very good about this interview. I'm glad that you do too. I'm very, I will tell you this is that I'm like looking at the clock and I'm like, oh man, I have something at 6, but I could talk to you for like hours and hours and hours. Ditto. I'm running 20 minutes behind, but I really enjoy this conversation. Good. And Cameron Harrell told me at Powder Mountain, he goes, you're a very scary guy. It's good at least that people can see the video because then they see you're smiling so that you're not being aggressive. I'm not. I just want to learn as much as possible, and I want my audience to learn. I want them to come back and say, dude, I heard this interview with David. It was so freaking useful. That's what I want. So if you listen to this, please let David know. Let me know. You've got my email address. You've got my phone number. You've got you people even have my address. Some people show up here because they're in San Francisco and they heard me give the address out, which I'm fine with. It's 201 Mission Street. Let us know if you like it. And if you're at, Baby Bathwater, go talk to Lubitch. I feel like he is just kind of chill in the background. And these days people don't realize he's one of the founders of Baby Bathwater, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, they're great. They're literally 3 blocks from my house, actually.
Yeah.
They're right on Street. They have a sign on Pearl Street now that says Baby Bathwater, which is hilarious. It's amazing.
They love that. They love that. They love that every time I tell my wife I'm going to Baby Bathwater, she gives me this weirdo look like, what is this thing? They love that whole thing. It's a good event. I'm really happy to have gone there. I'm glad that I got to have you on here. Anyone who wants to go check you out should go. Is it paleohacks.com, obviously, for the site? Is there another place where they can go connect with you?
Not currently, just Facebook, really.
All right.
I don't have a personal website or anything.
All right, you guys can hunt him down, or just frankly go to a Baby Bathwater event and go see him there. I get no payment for talking to Baby Bathwater, though they were a sponsor at one point. I just had a really good event, and I'm coming off that high. And the 2 sponsors, the ones who are paying me to talk about them, are HostGator.com/Mixergy and TopTal.com/Mixergy. David, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk again in person. Thanks.
Really.
Bye. Bye, everyone.